The first thing a recruiter does when they get a resume is they're going to Google you, or they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile, and they're going to see what you are like. And that's what social media does for you, right? It gives you a glimpse into that person's personality, what they like, what they read, what they write. Those are all signals to a recruiter. It's stuff they want to know before they actually pick up the phone and give you a call.
Let's go! Hello and welcome to the Brand New You Show, the podcast dedicated to helping you build your brand. We meet here each week to learn how building your brand can help you grow your influence, amplify your online reputation, and ultimately impact your career. I'm your host, Ryan Roten, and today's guest has been called the mad scientist of online recruiting. Chris Russell is the founder of CareerCloud.com. Chris is a digital recruiting consultant, recruiting blogger, and HR tech advisor. He loves experimenting in the online recruiting space and has founded many recruiting tech startups and various job boards, including a very successful local job board network called allcountyjobs.com, which he sold in 2012. Chris has been connecting job seekers to employers since 1999, and when he's not running Career Cloud, you can find him on his kayak or biking in the local trails in Connecticut. Chris, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Brand New You Show.
Well, that sounds like me, Ryan. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I've been listening to your podcast, which we'll talk about a little bit later, for a while now. And I knew after probably halfway through the first show I listened to that I eventually wanted to get you on. So I appreciate you reaching out and us connecting via LinkedIn so that we can make this happen.
Absolutely. Happy to talk to a fellow podcaster.
So before I get started with all the fun questions that we're going to talk about today, I have a really boring one that I like to start everybody off with, which is, if you could vacation in only one place for the rest of your vacation days, where would you go?
Probably Cape Cod. That's where family and I go every year. We rent a house and I kayak, I fish, I ride the bike trails. It's just kind of a little piece of heaven 1 week out of the year. So Cape Cod is definitely my choice.
Very nice. Do you stay closer to like Hyannisport, or do you go further out onto the Cape?
Yeah, further out the Cape, Eastham, Wellfleet, those areas.
Okay. I'm somewhat familiar. I actually worked on Nantucket Island for a summer between my my freshman year in college and my high school graduation year. So it's a really pretty area.
Yeah, it's just so relaxing and really helps recharge me for the fall and stuff. So great place.
As I take a look at your profile, I see that you have a BS in marketing, and then you got a master's degree in information systems. So I wouldn't necessarily peg you right out of the gate as being someone who would be in the recruiting space. So I'm curious, what was it that piqued your interest or got you curious and made you become passionate about recruiting?
Yeah, so great question. So early on in my career, somehow I got into writing resumes for my friends. So in my mid-20s, late 20s, I was kind of moonlighting as a resume writer on the side. I guess it started by my friend seeing my resume and saying, "Hey, can you make me one of those?" That's kind of where the genesis comes from of all this, right? Once I started doing resumes, eventually in my 30s, I got my master's degree from Pace as information systems, and this is around 97, 98. Once I graduated with my other degree, I decided I wanted to do something else with that degree. I didn't want it to go to waste. So at the time, I had just gone through a job search, and I'd used a couple of sites like back then, Monster, Hot Jobs kind of things. And there weren't too many other sites around that targeted my local area. I'd also just got a job at a web design firm. So I was doing a little bit of coding and more of a project manager, if you will, but I did some coding as well. And we built a site for a recruiting company, and the owner of that company wanted to have jobs on his site. So we built a little database tool for him to input his jobs, edit them, delete them, if you will. Very simple way to post jobs on a site. That's kind of where the next part took over, right? I said, hey, this is pretty easy to build. Why don't I create a job board of my own that services my local community in Fairfield County, Connecticut? Having just graduated, having just kind of got the entrepreneurial bug in me still, I wanted to do something with that, and I kind of put two and two together. And over that summer of '99, I started coding it at home at night. I launched it in September of that year. This is right during the .com boom, so literally every company was hiring, and they were just throwing money at anything that moved as far as recruiting goes. So I had a little bit of luck on my side in terms of timing. And once I launched the site called FairfieldCountyJobs.com, which is still around today, I pretty much had traction right away almost. I had some friends in HR across the area who posted jobs. I remember getting my first check about a month in. And from there, it just kind of took off, and a business was born. So I ran it on the side. I still had a full-time job while I was doing this. I think my first year, I made maybe 10K in the 4 months that I was online. And next year, I made about 50K, and then 75K, and it grew from there. After about 2 years of working full time, in 2001, when the .com crash happened, that's when I got laid off. But by then, I'd already had a site going on for a couple of years, so I had a second income already. So it allowed me to basically leave that, got my walking papers, and went to work for myself after that. And I worked from home for a number of years till I sold the business. It was mainly a small business in that time. I had a couple of part-time employees over the years, but I really tried to focus on just connecting people with jobs through technology, and it's kind of where it all started.
And so somehow during this time frame, I'm assuming this is where you've been now given this moniker of the mad scientist of recruiting. Can you tell a little bit about how you got that title, if you will?
Yeah, so I'll give credit to my pal in the industry, Joe Stubblebine. He works for Beyond.com. He kind of coined that for me. That really stems from me just experimenting over the years. I've built probably 50 to 100 different sites, all based on recruiting, whether it's a blog or a job board or some other types of recruiting technology apps. I have a number of apps I built over the years. So I'm a tinkerer. I like to experiment with technology, and it's all focused in the online recruiting space. So it's something that interested me a lot. I'm trying to find the next thing and see what sticks. So that's kind of where the moniker comes from.
Once you sold allcountyjobs.com, you didn't seem to let too much grass grow under your feet. It seemed like you founded Career Cloud just a few months after that. So can you describe for the listeners who may not know, what is Career Cloud?
Sure. So Career Cloud's a career content site with apps and tools and advice for the modern job seeker. So initially it started out as a social resume platform, and it's kind of morphed into this other thing, which is what you see today on Career Cloud, which is articles with a lot of great advice, practical advice I like to focus on. Tools. We have a number of different apps and web tools you can use to find work. And of course the podcast, which I've been doing for a number of years. So it's really all designed to help educate job seekers and make them better at job hunting. Job hunting today is a complex and time-consuming process like never before. And most people haven't been taught how to job search properly. It's all word of mouth, and most of them are doing it wrong, Ryan. They're just not doing what they should be doing to find work properly, and they really have to educate themselves. So I'm trying to do them one post, one app, one podcast at a time, and help them get better at the job search. So that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, you mentioned social resume. Was that like the initial kind of push when you said, I'm going to build Career Cloud? Was your original thoughts around this social resume?
Yeah, it was. People have so much data online now about themselves, that the social resumes were designed to let them aggregate all that into one place with their own URL, if you will. Kind of a LinkedIn plus your Twitter plus your Instagram plus your Facebook, etc. It's actually going to be, it's still online right now, but we're actually going to be sunsetting it this year.
Ah, okay.
It's something that, it was cool. I think it's still cool, but A, it doesn't make money, and B, it just hasn't taken off as I thought it would. So like any good entrepreneur, I'm going to pivot. You're going to be seeing a lot of new things on Career Cloud and this year as well. Most of it will be web-based, and just some more great tools to help the job seekers out there.
Even though you're going to sunset the social resume portion of Career Cloud, would you agree that job candidates, job seekers today, whether they know it or not, they still have a quote unquote social resume that exists online that can be found by recruiters or hiring managers?
Absolutely. The first thing a recruiter does when they get a resume is they're going to Google you, or they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile, and they're going to see what you are like. That's what social media does for you, right? It gives you a glimpse into that person's personality, what they like, what they read, what they write. Those are all signals to a recruiter. It's stuff they want to know before they actually pick up the phone and give you a call.
Yeah. Do you think at some point, someday, maybe the social resume will weigh higher on a hiring decision than an actual resume?
Yeah, I think it already is for some positions. If you're in marketing or tech or creative, things like that, where you have a lot of that stuff online already, the social resume is already becoming a valuable tool for both recruiter and job seeker. So as a job seeker, it allows you to stand out, of course, right? You can put your opinion out there. You can put your work out there and show off who you are with tools like Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. So in a variety of industries, it's already being used, not sort of officially, but a combination of all these things. The web is your resume basically now, and all your social media is online. It's all findable by recruiters, and they're definitely looking. So,
do you think job candidates would be better served to have an online hub, we'll call it a website for lack of a better term, versus a bunch of different accounts in social media, so that hiring managers or recruiters kind of have to go ferret out where they exist online versus just come into one centralized location?
Yeah, it's definitely helpful if you're a job seeker. I would say to a job seeker, create a little website for yourself. Whether could be an about.me page, it could be just a website that you have for yourself where you can link to everything. Pretty much every kind of web tool now lets you link to all your stuff, basically. You can sync your LinkedIn, sync your Twitter feed, whatever it is. And the technology is so good now that you can actually do that. It's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I think one of the things that surprised me is I've been doing this podcast and talking to different people, and it really came to light when I was talking to Audra and Katrina a few episodes ago, is that these social networks, especially like Twitter and Facebook, you could look at them as big talent pools that are kind of in disguise. Would you agree with that too?
Yep. Oh, totally. Facebook, LinkedIn, these are, in effect, the national resume database of the world. Everyone's online pretty much. And if you're not online, then you're doing yourself a disadvantage. I went to a job search group a couple weeks ago, and job seeker showed me his resume. He wanted a quick critique. First thing I looked at it, I said, "Where's your LinkedIn profile?" It's not on there. So, and he goes, "Well, I'm not on LinkedIn." I go, "What? You're not on LinkedIn?" "Well, do you know that 97% of recruiters are, and they're looking for people like you? So you better get on there." And so, yeah, it's definitely a good thing to do.
Yeah. How many people do you think you run across in a typical week or month where they're just adverse to the whole social media thing? I don't need a LinkedIn profile. I don't want Twitter. I don't want to touch Facebook. And we both know they're doing themselves a disservice, but what rough percentage would you say of people you run into still fit that mold even today?
I don't know. I'd say maybe 20%, something like that.
All right. That's not as high as I was thinking you might say.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty surprising, I think, considering the time that we live in and the prevalence of all these different networks, and how even, Twitter and Facebook and you mentioned LinkedIn, they're becoming some of the biggest resume repositories in the world.
Yeah.
It just surprises me that people don't see that.
Yeah. And some people don't, one of the reasons people don't get on there because they're happy in their jobs. They've been working for, 5-10 years at a company, and they haven't really had to job hunt before. So if they do happen to leave or get laid off now, again, going back to the job hunting is so complex now, they don't know where to start. So they're a bit overwhelmed with all this new technology. That's one of the reasons why, probably that guy wasn't on LinkedIn yet. So it's interesting now.
Yeah. Where would you recommend someone to start based on all the things that are taking place today?
Definitely LinkedIn. That's the number one place to be on if you're a job hunter. Branch out to other platforms as you get comfortable with them. Don't stretch yourself too thin, but just start small. Start with one side and build from there. That's my advice.
You alluded to this earlier. You have several apps in the App Store, and I'm referring just to iOS. I assume you have Android versions of some of them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one in particular, I think you have 6 apps on the App Store. One in particular that I actually downloaded and installed and have been playing with it for the last couple of days is called Job Master.
Yes.
And it's really very cool. You've done a great job putting it together. It's easy to use. I was actually kind of surprised when I clicked on the national sites button. There are actually 30 job boards in the United States.
Yep. National ones that you can basically have jobs from all over the country that you can potentially use to find work. So one of the reasons I built that app, Brian, is to help job seekers maximize their search. I think you have to really leverage the sites that are out there. I think it helps you find work faster. So I don't recommend making all those sites part of your daily routine as a job seeker. It's too many, but you can certainly find some sites in there that you may like and that may prove useful. And you use things like their email alerts to help leverage your time. Right, sign up for an email alert. Just let the jobs come to you from all these sites instead of you having to visit them all the time. I think too many job seekers don't realize that there are all these other sites out there, whether it's a niche, a national site, or a local site, that they should be using to find work. I painstakingly created that database in there. So it has over 1,000 job boards from across the world available at your fingertips. You can browse them all from within the app and see what else is out there, because you're definitely probably not using all the sites you should be as a job seeker.
Yeah, I mean, it's loaded with opportunities here. I mean, I'm just looking at the national sites. There's 30 in the US, there's 5 in Africa, 19 in Australia, 43 in Canada. I mean, holy cow, who knew?
Yeah, exactly. And there's still more I haven't discovered yet. So there's more to come in there as well.
I assume you've basically tied into their API and you're pulling all their information into your app. So literally everything is at your fingertips. You don't have to go to all these different sites anymore on your desktop. You can literally search for jobs in your area right from your phone now.
Yep, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. Now, I did notice too, it's a free app. You can download it for free. You can use the vast majority, it looks like, of the app itself for free as well. You do have 2 paid things in app purchases that you can make. They're only $1 each. But can you explain first what a niche site is? That would be one thing that you would have an in-app purchase for.
So yeah, all the country sites are free, and to access the niche of the local ones, 99 cents. It's just a one-time fee. So the most you ever pay is $2. But niche is all the industry sites, right? So all the accounting sites, all the marketing sites. We just put a category in there for dentists. So there's actually 5 dental job boards online today. So if you want to work in dentistry, those are the ones you're going to want to look at first. A to Z, basically, from accounting to even some women-specific like diversity sites as well. So lots of good stuff in there. All the local sites are all those are just U.S. based for every state. So for every state, there's a good 5 to 20, depending on the state size. Local job boards you could also be using. So you
have Job Master, and that's all the job boards, but then you also get it kind of specific in a different type of app called Social Media Jobs Guide. Is that app literally limited to just jobs in the social media space?
Yeah, that was a little experiment again that I did a few years ago. It's really just it pulls in, it takes all the different social media job boards out there, and it kind of aggregates their listings into that one app there.
It's the mad scientist at work, huh?
Yeah, I was really into social media jobs a few years ago, so that's the reason I built that one.
Let's talk about the podcast for a little bit. You run a podcast. It's a weekly show called Career Cloud Radio. How long have you been at the podcast?
Gosh, I've been podcasting probably since around 2007.
Oh, okay. Long time. You're like a vet.
Definitely. I think all my shows are hosted on hipcast.com, which is where the platform I host them on. And I don't know. It's the last time I looked, it was something like 5 million downloads over that time span or something. It's pretty crazy. But it started out as a different name, and it's kind of morphed once I started Career Cloud. So the original title of the show was Secrets of the Job Hunt. I actually wrote a book self-published a book back in 05 or 06, and had a podcast with the same name. Just been talking to lots of recruiters, career coaches, resume writers over the years, getting their take on how to job hunt. It's kind of my way of giving back, just putting out some great practical advice over the years. So done lots of shows, talked to pretty much, every career coach who's online these days of any sort of significance. And just a lot of fun, and something I'm pretty passionate about, and I just love doing.
Yeah, you just recently had a episode with Jessica. I think it's Hernandez.
Jessica Hernandez, yep.
Yeah, very good. She gives a lot of great practical advice and tips in that show. If people go download your podcast, definitely check out that one. It's really good.
Definitely, yeah. It's I really try to focus on practical and sort of tactical things you can take away. I hate theoretical advice. I want like actual advice jobs are going to use to go find a job. As soon as they stop pausing and get out there. So
yeah. Now you mentioned you wrote a book, Secrets of the Job Hunt. Is that book still available? Can people pick it up somewhere?
No, it's sitting in some boxes in my office here. It's somewhere.
Okay.
It's a little. It's over 10 years old now, so some of it's a little out of date as far as like some of the tools and stuff like that's in there. But if anyone wants a copy, stop by and I'll give you one.
Any thoughts of turning it into an ebook? Put it up on Amazon?
Yeah, I might actually. It's a good idea.
There you go. You can send me a royalty now for that idea.
All right. You got it.
All right, Chris, let's talk about your consulting business for a little bit. We've talked a lot about job boards, and job boards has come up on my podcast multiple times. I'm sure it has on yours as well. And everybody talks about job boards are dead or dying or whatever. But I'm more curious because you work with a lot of these job boards. What do you think job boards get right today?
Well, they deliver candidates to the employers who want them. I mean, particularly in sort of the niche and local spaces, employers need a place to post their jobs, right? They're always reacting to their recruiting needs, and they're always going to be doing that as far as the eye can see, right? So every time an employer has a need for a job, they need a place to post it, and that's where job boards come in. Most companies don't have the traffic to their career sites, so they need immediate eyeballs on that job listing. And where do they go? They go to job boards first, right? That's the quickest, fastest way to get a candidate these days, and that's what job boards do well.
How would you recommend job seekers today utilize the job boards? So when I was coming up through the ranks, if you will, Tim Samir, my first guest, called it the pray and spray method. You posted your resume on the job board to many, many different jobs, and you kind of hope that somebody called you back. Clearly, that way doesn't work. Is there a better way for candidates to strategically use job boards?
Yeah, so I would say that does work. I just preface that by saying that that shouldn't be your only tool in your job box, right? I do believe you should be putting your resume on the a handful of big sites to again maximize your presence on there. Monster, Career Builder, Glassdoor, Indeed. Take the top 10 national sites out there and get your resume on there. That'll give you the most exposure across the industry itself. Secondly is email alerts. You want to sign up for as many email alerts as you want to, as far as that goes. And again, let the technology do the work for you. I think that when you're using a job board, here's one of my good tips, is that if you see a job you like, apply to it immediately. So if you're doing the email alerts and you're checking those every morning, and one comes across, apply to that job as soon as possible. I think the faster you apply to a job, the better. It's just a general rule I go by. It gets you into the recruiter's hands sooner. You're top of mind really with them, and that's helpful as far as that goes.
Now you mentioned Indeed. There's a really cool tool that I like on Indeed. I'm curious what you think about it. How could job seekers make use of the Indeed's trend tool?
Indeed trend tool, yeah. So I don't know if it's a great tool for them. I mean, it's interesting to see what's happening in the job market essentially. So you can type in a keyword, one of your skill sets, maybe like a Java developer or customer service. You can see the trends as far as, is it going up or down, right? So are employers looking for more of those skills or less of those skills? That kind of gives you a sense of the market overall, and what's happening in it. I think if you see it going up, your skills are in demand more. Perhaps maybe you can make a little bit more money in that case, right? It might give you a signal as far as helping you negotiate your salary or things like that. So.
Now, you not only put together a lot of different tools and apps and applications and websites for job seekers, but you also help employers and other recruiters as a part of your consulting business now. Can you talk a little bit about, what do you do in the recruiting tech or HR technology realm, especially when it comes to tech startups?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of job boards, recruiting software startups, and employers to kind of just navigate this world of digital recruiting, right? So on the employer side, I help them find job boards. They might will help with recruiting their whatever talent they need. I can help them with employer branding and creating their career sites, things like that. And then on the vendor side, helping these job boards and recruiting startups to really message better, talk to the HR, talk to the employers in terms of the wording, their pitch, things like that. So I've been on both sides of the fence here. I've been on three sides. I've been a candidate, I've been an HR vendor, and I've been a recruiter as well. So I spent a few years in talent acquisition recently. So I know how all this works together and how each of these should be talking to each other as far as messaging goes. So I do a lot of, for job boards, I replatform them on new software. I show them how to market better to employers and kind of the vice versa of that, really. That's what I do.
So employer branding is kind of a relatively new thing. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for improvement for employers when it comes to their employer brand?
They're not showcasing what their work environment is like enough. They're not letting their employees speak, right? They're hiding behind these career sites with stock photo images of people who don't work there, and they're not being transparent. And job seekers don't want to see that. Job seekers want to know what it's like to work there. So I love to see companies who are actively promoting what it's like to work at their company. And that manifests itself on things like Twitter and Instagram, and where you're actually seeing photos of the office, photos of employees in action, talking about, a lot of companies will now write about, advice on talking to their recruiters. How do you impress your recruiter going to an interview? Those types of things are what job seekers want to hear. And they're increasingly demanding more of that. So you're seeing a lot of now, in tech circles, like all these tech startups, they're so competing for talent so much, they're really focusing on the culture itself and showcasing that online through social media. Hey, here's what it's like to work here. Here's who you'll be working with, and here's why you should come work for us. And that's really refreshing from a candidate point of view.
Yeah, I think so. What's probably the best example of employer branding that you've seen?
Gosh, I'll just name some companies who do it well. So here in Connecticut, like Gartner does a really good job. So if you search on Gartner across Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you'll see what I'm talking about. Fidelity, Sodexo, Amtrak, just to name a few, Geico. All those companies do a great job in terms of just promoting their internal employees and the culture and what it's like to work there. So if you Google any of those companies, you'll see what I'm talking about.
In your area, you probably are starting to hear, or maybe you've heard about it for a while now, companies are starting to look at what's loosely referred to as big data. How do you see big data when it comes to employees and information about individuals and people? How do you see that impacting the recruiting process down the road, or even the hiring decisions?
Well, as a job seeker, as a candidate, increasingly more of your information is coming online. And so what you're seeing now, you're seeing that some of that manifests itself now through things like people aggregators, right? There's a number of companies like Intello, TalentBin, Dice has a product called, it's called Open Web. And what these tools do is they basically crawl the web and put your profiles together. So you can actually do a search on a skill or a name on these tools, and it'll pull up all your profiles that you've done online. It'll pull up all that information in your bio, in your Twitter bio or your LinkedIn profile that you've written there. And so it makes all this stuff searchable. And as a recruiter, it's never been easier to find somebody than it is today. And that's how it's currently manifesting itself overall. And that's just going to grow, right? It's just going to pretty much eventually everything about yourself is going to be searchable on a database somewhere. It's a reality. It's coming, so get ready for it.
Yeah, I think I read that Intello actually has an algorithm within their software system that can predict, based on updates to a LinkedIn profile, whether a person is actually looking to leave their current company.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's called like social signals or something like that.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, there's definitely data there that helps determine that. If you're a savvy recruiter, you can kind of see when somebody updates their profile, especially on LinkedIn. Kind of they might be getting ready to look, or it's definitely a signal that recruiters are looking for and want to see.
Do you ever think we'll get to a place where we have what I'll call an employability score, meaning these companies, Intello, TalentBin, Open Web, or one that hasn't yet started, will be able to aggregate enough data from you online that they can kind of rank you and give you a score from an employability standpoint? Do you think we'll ever get to that kind of point?
Yeah, they're kind of trying it now. Like LinkedIn has a score, I think, when you're doing like a search on keywords and things like that in terms of, matching, right? A lot of companies are trying this whole matching thing now. I think eventually it'll get better. I think today it's still not that great. I think there's too many other variables going into a person's hireability. To me, people hire people. And so you never forget that. No technology, I think, can give you that, gut instinct feel about a person. Eventually you're going to have to go in and meet the company anyway. So no technology can help you at that point, right? You still have to basically pass the interview and either impress them or don't impress them. So be careful out there. I think technology should be used as an enabler of all this, not as a replacement for it. To me, that's always going to be the case. At least I hope so.
Is it worse for a job seeker to have no online profile than it is to have a very small one?
Yes. And the main reason I hear from recruiters all the time is that, okay, well, what are they hiding? Or why aren't they online? To them, it's a red flag. So it's, they want to know why. Okay, why? It gives them pause. It gives them doubt. At the very least, create a LinkedIn profile for yourself and just get on there. It doesn't have to be, a huge book on yourself, but something out there. Otherwise, it gives them pause. It gives them doubt.
That's a big change from even just 5 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. Tells you where we're headed.
So Chris, as the mad scientist of online recruiting, anything you can share with us that you're working on right now? You got any new apps in the pipeline or any new websites getting ready to go live?
Always got stuff going on, Ryan. So wouldn't be the mad scientist without it. I'll tell you this. So for JobMaster, we're actually turning that into a web version, and it's going to be expanded with other types of tools. I'll leave it at that. But we don't have an Android version, so I've been thinking about webifying it anyway, and going to expand upon JobMaster overall, create a whole new reason to come to Career Cloud. So stay tuned for that.
I've enjoyed our conversation. And for those who would like to know more about you, more about Career Cloud, the podcast, any new stuff that you're working on, what is the best way for the listeners to get in touch with you?
Yeah, careercloud.com, careercloudradio.com, and follow me on Twitter at Chris Russell.
And if you happen to be in Connecticut, stop by and get a copy of the book.
Definitely. Offer stuff.
All right. You got any final thoughts, words of wisdom, or tips you want to pass on to anybody that's listening today?
Job hunting is a complex process. Just be persistent. That's definitely a big thing with me is just, stick with it. Don't get discouraged and be persistent, consistent, and eventually you'll land that gig you want.
Awesome. Okay, Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. It's been great finally getting to talk to you, and I look forward to what you have coming down the pipeline.
Good stuff, Ryan. Appreciate the call.
Do you know what recruiters will find when they search for you online? If not, you should. Take it from the mad scientist himself. Your online activities send signals to others, recruiters included, about who you are as a person. This information can then be used to assess your fit within a company or an organization. And as Chris tells us, your online presence is only going to grow in importance in the coming years. So I'll ask again, do you know what recruiters will find when they search for you online? Thank you, Chris, for being a guest on the show today, for sharing your story, and for reminding us all of the importance of our online reputations. For you, the listener, as always, thank you for tuning in today. I encourage you, check out Chris's apps in the App Store and keep your eye out for any new future releases. If you're new to the show or even a longtime listener, don't forget this is a podcast, which means you can subscribe to the show and have each week's episode delivered right to your favorite phone or pod catcher. That wraps us up for today. The show notes can all be found on the website at ryanroten.com/Chris Russell. Until next week, I've been Ryan, and I'm out. Today's show was edited and produced by Ryan Roten, and the intro and outro music is Pulse by Soundroad.